Hello, good evening. Welcome to one more session of Code Nights and Zeds. And tonight we have just a minute. We have a session tonight about Microsoft Agent Framework flows, and that's going to be a special session because it's been a while since like last time I came to share a session with you guys, and we're going to be exploring something that I've been doing for clients. So I have productionized this already. So I have like multiple workflows in place. My intent is really to bring you up to speed to get to understand, well, what's math and what are like workflows that are available within the agent framework. And for you to know, having like some sort of baseline for you to start today if you're coming for the first time, and to get something really ready for you to use with clients or on your studies. uh, I'd like to mention also, like before we get going, that's going to be a session focused on code. And yeah, so it's going to be pretty like hands-on. And before we get to that, I'm just sharing here on the screen. If you're coming here like for the first time, uh, we're Code Night user group. The main intent in here is that we're enabling developers like with knowledge, and basically to for you like as a developer to launch your career, right? So we're this community group, and we really do like things just because we love coding. As you can see here, we're part of azure.com. We're a cloud native group of enthusiasts, and where we get to share like the latest and greatest on the cloud native space. We're sponsored by .NETFoundation.org, which is the entity that looks after the different open source .NET projects, and JetBrains, software tooling for developers. Before we get to the sessions, I'd like also to introduce Code Night and Z Local. So that's another meetup, and the main intent for that is for workshops. So I've been running some workshops and having like sessions in person, right? So I create like this group just to bring online sessions and also those local sessions as well. So if you are interested in attending those sessions, I'm here like Brisbane based, and this is the QR code. Feel free to join if you want to attend any of those sessions. If you don't know me, my name's Marcel Medina. I'm a software developer and Azure specialist. I'm also a Microsoft MVP. I have here like my QR codes if you're keen to get in touch and just talk about software. If you have like any sort of questions about career paths, I'm basically like make myself available to the community to assist like with any sort of queries. As you can see, also like a app innovation consultant at Arinco. And for tonight, right, we're just going to get going. I put it, let's see here, just a minute. I put it a poll on on YouTube. Let's see if that's in there. Right. Yeah. So I have like I've been sharing the poll on YouTube. Is whether like you have explored math workflows or not. Right. So if I am to bring that, maybe maybe I can, maybe I don't. But anyways, so we have like a pool over there. If you can answer that, so that's going to help me align the discussions towards like what your experience, right? So and I put like in there, and I'll keep an eye on the YouTube pool and just to see how guys are familiar with the workflows. What we're going to be covering is that these particular topics, right? We're exploring foundations, so getting to align, or just like a level of understanding on what the math workflows are, building blocks to help understand what happens behind the scenes. Right? So how workflows work within agent framework. Dev UI, oops, well, dev UI, where we have a way of visualizing for running and testing, like debugging the workflows, orchestration patterns. So those are I put like 5 of them in here, the main ones. And what happens with the uh, workflows is that those are considered like the main ones, but you can combine those workflows. So we're going to be exploring how to do that in the executor, right? So as you could notice in here, part of the building blocks, we have those executors. And we're going to be exploring a little bit more of them because there are lots of them. But you don't need to get going. You don't need to understand uh, all of them. You just need to understand one. But we have which is the basic class. But they're like different ones. And so my intent is to explore a little bit of them so you are aware of what you can do with them. With the AI agents in workflows, right? So we have two analysis in here, like the workflows by its definition, like is that it's deterministic, meaning that when things happen within workflows, you have, let's say, a particular input, something happens in there, and uh, an output in the end. That's considered like deterministic because you can predict what's the behavior within a workflow. And when you were bringing agents in there, so what happens is that imagine as if like you have like a rep and your workflow is there. So you're bringing an agent within it. And then what that allows is you can put like a deterministic behavior on something that's uh, dynamic, right? Non-deterministic with agents. So we can wrap any sort of piece of code in there. And we can bring agents within like this scenario. As you can see, like it's deterministic, workflow, repeatable, auditable. So we have like ways to having something that we can predict. And well, it's interesting here is that like it says like it's like a train on tracks. Yeah, it doesn't deviate from uh, what comes next, right? So you know like exactly what's going to happen when it starts and when it finishes. However, an agent, AI agent, it's like a taxi navigating traffic. It's completely dynamic. So yeah, every single time like things change, adaptive depending on scenarios, on what you bring. You're gonna have like different variations. It's ideal for open-ended scenarios, so like ambiguous or exploratory tasks. So it's something that you can't really control. But as soon as you combine them together, that's when you're bringing a deterministic approach, right? So best systems combine both workflows for the rails, agents for dynamic decisions inside, right? So just to bring that as part of like the initial why we have workflows, right? So to bring a specific behavior to our agents. Looking here at the building blocks is that, well, we have like this concept of executors. So they are considered like those nodes, processing nodes. And we have logic in there. The executors, like when we're looking at the agent framework, uh, imagine as a wrap. You're wrapping a logic. That one you could have like simple codes, like deterministic codes. We're going to be using on the examples I'm going to show like in C sharp. But you could bring like agents in there, like logic that queries LLMs, and you make a decision out of that. But within agent framework, we have like these processing nodes. Everything here is wrapped up. And when we're talking about the workflows, we have edges. Like imagine that you have a particular executor running a process, and after it finishes, it needs to trigger another process. The way how you do them you connect them is through edges. So that's a specific, there are different types of edges, but conceptually, that's how you connect those executors. And when things happen within those executors, or even when the workflow starts, you have particular events. So it's about like the life cycle. So you can inspect and see what's happening. Like for example, here executor has been invoked, or the executor has been completed, workflow has been started. So you could watch those events if you want to. And as part of these 5 orchestration patterns I'm bringing here, I'm going to talk like about the sequential pattern, concurrent, handoff, group chat, magentic, and the different scenarios that they cover. And it's interesting enough that those are the main ones that Microsoft has been pushing or with support, like on the agent framework workflows. So you have support for that. And from here, you can combine them the way you need it, like to create this robust production system. I'm going to dive into each of them and explaining how they work. And as I mentioned, is that workflows, they can be combined. So you can define this orchestration the way you want, so like depending on what you're trying to achieve. In here, what you're gonna notice is that this is the anatomy of like this multi-agent flow, in where you're gonna have like this entry, this input, and an entry agent, right? Here, like I'm not specifying which agent this one is, but consider that like as a building block where we're starting the execution. And we can see here that things split, right? So that's called like the fan out pattern. Within the agent, Microsoft agent workflow, the fan out can be implemented with the concurrent pattern, but you can see that things here are splitting between agents, agent B1 and B2. And by the end, we have fan in. So things are being consolidated into like a final stage, right, which is this agent C. And it's basically doing some aggregation. What it allows you to do is that to combine, you can see here like this is a sequential way. However, when it gets in here like on B1 and B2, that flow is split, right? So we have like concurrency. Things are being executed in parallel. The aggregator is also a way for you to bring and consolidate the message, whatever happens in here. If you want to, for example, well, we have a scenario, but this in general would be used for summaries. Whatever happened in here and here, summarize for me, consolidate, and bring me a final output, right? And that's how things are combined. So you can be creative and based on what you have as a use case, you can combine them as piece of like Lego pieces, right? So you're just building them like to get to work together. On all the examples I'm running with DevUI, this is a tool that's in preview, but what it does is that allows you to run and debug with like Visual Studio at the same time. So you see exactly what's happening. You have like a visual way of seeing how the agents are working together, which is pretty cool, like for development purpose, right? Because well, if you're only developing through codes and using Visual Studio for that, yeah, you can debug like with the tooling. But if you want like to visualize what's happening, what sort of iterations, this tool is pretty cool. So we're gonna be using that like on the demos. But what you can see in here like is that like this lightweight standalone sample app for running debugging agents and workflows. It works like with a web. It's a UI that you can launch here. Like yeah, it's open AI compatible API, so it leverages a particular uses APIs behind the scenes, but connected to agents. It's interesting because what happens is that Microsoft provided this NuGet package that brings additional endpoints. And then what it does is that it can output what's happening through those agents. Pretty cool. I'm enjoying that for development purpose. It helps you to visualize what's going on. It's mainly used like for like let's say traceability or observability, right? So you see like exactly what's going on, all of the events in yeah, that one really helps for you like understanding what happens behind the scenes. Uh, Recommended for this one is that like only for development, right? So you shouldn't productionize this at all, mainly because that's not a tool for production use case. It's only for developers. So see that as a workflow UI for you as a developer. I'm going to be leveraging that. So that's why I'm bringing in here. If you have not explored, I'm simply going to walk you through like how it works. And in here, we're going to go to the first pattern, right? The sequential pattern. As you can see, well, we have building blocks. This is an example where, let's say we're writing a blog. So you are the writer, let's say, but for this case, we have an agent that's going to write something, create a draft. Then you could bring like a reviewer, another agent that's going to provide some sort of feedback. And the editor would be someone, an agent that publishes the blog after things are reviewed, right? We don't have like, there could be like other flows in here for approval, but anyways, what happens that there is a writer, a reviewer, and that's going to check, make changes. The editor in here is going to do some sort of changes and persist the blog. And it just happens on this sequential way. I'm gonna share like here my screen and bring like Visual Studio. Let's see here. All right, I know that I'm gonna zoom in here. I'm gonna share like the repository for that. But what you're gonna notice is that we have, I'm gonna split like into blocks, right? And we have the simple project that contains all of the workflows. Then we have all the patterns split into different projects. And then we have, well, the more complex one, which is around the executors, right? So then we have like the last one. The intent in here is to show you, probably going to be jumping onto the sequential UI, just because I know that, well, everything that happens in here, like which is going to be a console, is going to happen exactly the same in the UI. But the UI allows us to visualize what's happening, right? So I could go like one way or the other. Probably gonna depend on how we go with time. I can jump to one, a console, then a UI, but the intent is to walk through like all of them. And the complex scenario here is that when we're crafting our executors, right? In here we have executors, but they are abstracted. It's just interesting. Like you don't need to know executors to run like workflows. There are libraries that abstract that for us, but in here we're deep diving, right? So we're going to be exploring that. Let's go to the sequential one. And in this code, the main why I create like this repository because to be honest, like Microsoft has like lots of repositories available. And every single time I jump in there, like there are changes, things break. I didn't really want to rely on them, so I decided to create my version, which is much more stable. Things don't change, and they don't break like for the demo, right? So feel free to grab it. I'm gonna put like on the chat the URL as soon as I finish like the demos. But yeah, for you to get going, you need three variables: Azure OpenAI endpoint. So you need an endpoint for that. The deployment name of the model. Uh, by default, I have hard coded like GPT-5 4 mini. I think for this example, I'm running GPT 4.1. But anyways, for the examples in here, we don't need um, a lot. I just want to quick demonstrate how things work. And I'm using API key. That's it. You only need those three. And you can do that with when you manage the user secrets, right? So you could do yourself like in here, and you can put like those. I'm not going to display because the secrets are all in there, but you can just take it and run it yourself. And this is a sequential one. And what we have is a scenario where a pilot is going to decide to take off or not an airplane. And so you have, I created like this one as an agent, like the runway scan agent that's going to identify the surface conditions. We have tools in here, as you can see. Then we have the air traffic control agents that's going to grant or deny the takeoff. There are no tools in here at all, but it's going to decide whether to allow or block like takeoffs. And the pilots, the pilots as well is going to observe what's happening with the air traffic control and make a decision, which is going to cancel or continue with the takeoff. And there are tools in here. What I want to show is that in terms of the NuGet packages, I bring this one full screen, is that we're using the Microsoft Agents AI workflows. That's the one really where we're leveraging um, all of the workflows that are available. So there's like a specific package for that. The other ones just the libraries around um, the flows with chat clients, all of that. But this is the main one. So have a look like at the packages, explore them, and all of them are referenced in here, like on top, right? So you can see it on the usings. And the main query in here is that, okay, this is the departure. So a service vehicle is parked and it's just preparing for takeoff, right? One of the other things in here is that we have the shared library. Let me open that and bring it the helpers, right? So this shared library in here is going to be used by this and by the UI. So that's why you can see every single project it has, okay, the main one, the UI one, and then the shared components. When I look at the tools, what they're doing, they're just doing random checks, right? Bringing, okay, according to those statuses, is it like clear, there are foreign objects or debris, it's going to randomize and provide a response. But I did that through tools, right? So those tools are the ones that are hooked uh, under like the particular agents. So you can see, create like the get chat client, and then from here there's like these methods like uh, as AI agents. So I'm providing the prompt, and then it comes with the tools in here. And what's interesting is that for the sequential, we have an implementation that does exactly what we need. So that we don't need to do anything else. You just take like what Microsoft has wrapped up, and we're only passing the agents, right? And that's it. So let me just run that. I can put like a breakpoint and let it go. So let's just run this one. And you can see, so we got like the breakpoints, but up to here, nothing really happened. Now, what should happen is that, let me bring the console. So the console has opened, right? So we're gonna continue on that, and we should see things happening. There are like sensors, like those toolings are being executed. Then the air traffic control is based on what was in here. Or there was like service vehicle crossing. Yeah, there are like debris is spotted. So what their traffic control system did was just to hold. So it set like a status. And then the pilot agent right? So the pilot agent, so there was like a hold from the here, and then the pilot agent came and said, "Oh look, engine's cut." So it looked at that and took a decision in a sequential way, right? And it's interesting because then you can see things happening in here. And at the same time, I'm gonna bring now the UI, and let me just set this one as the startup. And don't think I have that one any breakpoints here. But what changes in here is that it's just the wiring. Uh, it's a little bit different because the wrap around the dev UI requires us to hook that to the builder, right? The web application builder. So we need to have this one hooked onto the service collection. So you can see that things slightly changed because now we are adding the chat to the service collection that's getting the chats and creating, okay, as a iChat client. So we put like the chats in there. And then we have the add AI agents. It's interesting that it returns in here. I hosted agents builder, right? In because that's exactly what's wrapping. So you need to hook that to the pipeline. So we're doing that the same for the runway, air traffic control agent, the pilot. So we're using the same. What dev UI asks us to have it is this. So let me bring that. We need like to hook like this open AI responses, open AI conversations, and edit the dev UI. So those are the requirements for dev UI to work. And then we need to do the mapping of responses. It means that like we have endpoints for that. Mapping the AI conversations in the map dev UI. So there are like some requirements for dev UI to work. And when we look in here, oh, look, have exactly the same. All right, so the agent workflow builder, build sequential is there. We're just wrapping it as an agent. It's interesting. This is an agent as well. The workflow is an agent. Uh, and we're going to see what happens. Let me just launch that. I bring the console. So now we have localhost 7079. Where's my browser? Let me see. I had that. 779 localhost. One thing, if I put like just 779, nothing happens. I need to put slash dev UI. Is that, oops, should be HTTPS? Let me see. This one, HTTPS. So let me just bring that one, HTTPS. Cool, right? So things happen. I think I'm gonna put like half and half. Okay. There will be like a lot of things happening. If like I'm not zooming in, it's just like this on my intent really like to focus on the specifics. But if I'm zooming in, that means like that's something really important to have a look, right? So looking here, so that's the dev UI. So it requires us to have this particular URL that doesn't come by default when launch 779. You need to bring that one. As soon as you bring it, then it launches. But we have this agents in here. We have this whole area for the chats. We have like events, trace, tools. Right? At the bottom here, we have the way. Let me bring. Okay. And here at the bottom, we have like the chats. So we can make like queries. And when I open here, you can see agents, air traffic, pilot, runway, and then the workflow itself. I could just come like even like ask, okay, what can you do? So I'm just asking for the traffic control agent. So it's going to say exactly what it can do. So we are chatting with the agents, right? It's not part of the workflow, it's just the agents. And what I can do in here is to take the workflow, and then as soon as I select it, look at that. So you can see that there is an agent wrapped up as it's an executor. So I didn't at any time I specify that this is an executor at all. It's just it's in there, right? So but it identifies that this is an executor. It's a wrap of the logic, and we can see we have this sequential way. What I'm gonna do, I'm going to start with the query that we had uh, in here. I'm gonna copy that. So departure task, that's the query I'm bringing to execution. Let's see when it does. Okay, and this one as well. Cool. Configure and run. I'm gonna put like this one in there. So I'm just provide like my inputs and I'm gonna run the workflow. And what I'm gonna observe in here is that it's running, okay? And things are coming here like in a way that we can visualize until it finishes. I'm just trying to zoom in a little bit more, but yeah, interesting that you can see if I am to come and click, okay, I want to see only what happens with these executors in here. Can I do? Here. So I can click in here. I can see that only those two have been triggered. If I click like the traffic control, what it did, oh, there's been like some sort of events, like things happening here. Yeah. So there were like some sort of iterations with the pilots as well, right? And then the output messages, which is the last one. And on this side, we had it like the trace or the events happening. Interesting enough is that we cannot like simply visualize like all of the details. Like you need to go through all of them, but there are like some decisions being made in here, like the different events that were triggered. Like departure held due to unsafe runway conditions. Yeah, it's we cannot sort it, but this one it's from like a descending, right? So things starting here at the bottom, it went up and finishing here. So we can see that the different decisions that were made and toolings that were executed. So this was part of the air traffic control that's saying here hold, right? So and you can see that the tools they were triggered, but the colors are still they're different, right? So a little bit different, but not that much. So this one was the first, and this one was the last one with the pilots. So things are still happening, and we can see what's going on. So the dev UI helps us to visualize what's happening. Like if things are stuck, depending on the complexity, right? That can be tricky for you to see, oh, what's going on? Like you're going to be watching the console. No, you need like a way during the development to visualize that. So that's the tool for you to use. Okay. So that's the UI. We explained the sequential flow. Let's go with the other flows. The concurrent pattern, right? Well, the concurrent pattern leverages parallel executions, but not all parallel. Let's say all concurrent executions they happen in parallel, right? And that was exactly the example I initially brought up with the fan out, fan in. And what happens is that before you can split like the processes, you need to let's see here. Bring so before like you can split what the pattern introduce this coordinator. So the coordinator tells, okay, it's kind of a manager that splits the executions against the different agents. And then you have this aggregator. And it's interesting that that's the fan out, fan in implementation. And you can run like multiple tasks in parallel. And yeah, you basically get to do that when you need, like, for example, if you're working with particular documents. Let's say you want an agent to be responsible for understanding Word docs, another agent for being responsible for understanding PDF files. So you could like split up the processing of different files into different agents, and then by the end you ask for like some sort of aggregation, a summary. So what was available on the doc words, on the PDF files, and you get them like available for you. That one say helps you to reduce time because things are happening concurrently. And yeah, that's like a standard like I use like in the market form. Yeah, it's nothing. All of those patterns, they have nothing to do specifically with agents. They just came up because we've been doing that for a while. It has only been brought to the agent framework as um, libraries, right, for you to use. Let's go like to that and see how it works on code. So if this one, oops, I'm going to stop that. And let's go directly to, let's see, where's the concurrent? Let's see first this one, which is the console. And same sort of structure. We have like the prompt. This one is like a field operations agent. Uh, yeah, because the World Cup was happening, right? The football World Cup. And then let's say for you to be able to define if a game could happen. So I create like this sort of multiple agents that can check well, the safety of the stadium uh, to see like, okay, like monitoring and validating like whether it's safe for attendees, right? The venue is safe. Medical readiness agents, if there's like emergencies, if you have a support for any sort of emergencies that may occur. The power systems are ready and available, right? And for like, and then like the broadcast systems, are they ready like for transmitting like to the world, like the game? So things like that, right? And that was like the World Cup match readiness that's bringing like here. And just to do like this assessment. And you can see here we have like this concurrency happening here by specifying exactly that, right? So that's the wrapping around the concurrent workflows. And all of the agents are listed. Interesting enough, what I have in here is that's just ways of printing. I'm streaming. So as they get triggered, we have like output straight away. My focus is not to dive into that, but you're going to have the codes and have a look. And then we have things that are being aggregated. I'm not going to run this one directly. And although like what I noticed is that with the, let's just do it like very quickly. With the console, we have the outputs and the reasoning behind. So you don't need to dig onto the UI. You just see everything in there. Let me just launch that. Probably gonna exploit this one for visual representation, right? Yeah, there are like tools being triggered. So with the different colors, like field, like operations, stadium, occupancy. So we have like different status, right? All of those are tools. So our agents have access to those tools. Those tools randomly set specific statuses. And well, there's been like lots of things like medical. one offline. So there are things that are not really happening as should be, right? So what happens is that it's saying here like the stadium is unsafe. Medical has been blocked, like the field is blocked. There are the virus systems, right? For analysis, the cameras are offline. Nothing's happening. So there are things in here that's really not happening. And by the end, it's going to say that interesting. Also, the clearance is denied because multiple critical faults, cameras down, network bandwidth insufficient. Anyways, so the event has been canceled. uh, yeah, but it's cool that what's gonna happen here. We, it's just like a silly example. However, it has like a for demonstration purpose. It shows exactly like the power of and the capabilities of what the agent framework can do. Let's see if that's oh, it had launched 7,005. Let me see the ports. So things here are going to change a little bit. 7,005. Anyways, cool. So we have like exactly the same, like different agents. Let's see the workflows. Look at that. Gonna zoom in, maybe a little bit more, but bring that one. Look at here. Uh, we have we never set like well a specific starting point. It's just the agent framework has that. It knows that we have those different agents being executed concurrently, but it has the different executors. I don't not sure if you can really see in there. Probably not. But we have like ways of visualize. Okay, those executors. Let's see, medical. We call like the batcher, but what they are basically aggregators in here, like so they are bringing things together. We didn't specify any executors. Our code doesn't have that. But what the agent framework library did for us is that it created this for us. It abstracted and it just made it available. Let me run that. It's nice seeing like the things working really because you really see like how powerful things are. Uh, let's go like concurrent. I want to grab like the prompt for the workup, match, check readiness, access all fields. I'm gonna copy that and bring it to the UI. So in here, okay. Coming here, configure and run. I'm gonna do it, running. Uh, don't bother about this one. I'm gonna minimize, but you can see that things are happening all in parallel. We have different events being output. It just did. So, but all of them happen in parallel. And yeah, it's there are lots. Like so, you can see exactly what happens. The batcher. Uh, we need to see what happened here. But the response summary, like input tokens, output tokens, it's more like that's the observability, really, that you have like the fine grain available here. The decisions are here. You need to scroll down. Wow, there's been lots. Block it. Like so, there are like some decisions being made in here. Like mains power supply is unstable. So this scenario was another like random execution. There are like things that are okay, like but yes, there are some things in here that didn't happen. All right, so but it's cool that we can see things happening. One of the things here I notice is that well, we have like support for open telemetry. I didn't hook that onto the code and some tools. Interesting. To be honest, it feels to me that there are like some bugs with like the dev UI as well. You can see this one is version 0.1.0, right? So it's not even a major, it's a minor version. I noticed like some cases I can see tools being triggered. And here we do have tools. Where was that? I think that one's broadcast. So I can click like under the agents and see the the prompt, like what's it doing, and the tools in here. To be honest, all of them have been triggered. However, I don't see them on the UI. So that could be something. Can you see? All of those tools have been triggered. So you can see the colors in here. They've been triggered, but they're not being displayed. There could be like some bugs with the tool. But anyways, I'm not like too worried about that. In some cases, I've seen those tools being triggered and counted. Other cases, I haven't, with no difference of code. Okay. So this one is the concurrent. The handoff. The handoff is very interesting. That's one of the scenarios where you have the manager or an agent that really sets tasks to be done by specialists. Right? So the agent is going to transfer like the control base. So the triage in here, like an example of like a triage agent that takes like the inputs and, for example, maybe could be like a customer service, like a contact center, where depending on the inquiry, it could be something to do with billing. It could forward that to a specific agent. Something to do like, okay, like I have not done. People could say I have not done any sort of payments. What happened? My account has been debited about that. So the triage agent could say, oh, this is something to do with fraud. Like the customer is saying this, but um, yeah, it's suspicious about like a specific transaction. Or it could be something to do, for example, of a UI, right? The user interface, there are like some errors, things are not happening. So depending on what the product you're launching, the contact center, you could have like something that could be automated with this sort of triage agents using a handoff, right? And what happens is that let's pull like this one under to be executed. So let's see. Let me stop this. Let's see this handoff. Uh, well, let's go with the handoff UI in here. Similar, exactly the same sort of implementation as other projects. What's changing here is really the agents, the prompts, right? Triage agents. Like you are the triage agent that is responsible for reading incoming customer support tickets. Cool. And then based on the content, you hand off to one of the specialists, a billing agent, fraud, technical support. That's it. Always hand off immediately. So we're just telling the agent to send to another agent. Then we have the specialist, billing. With there are tools. Interesting enough is that our triage agent doesn't have any tools, but the billing does have the fraud agents as well, and the technical support agents as well in here. Uh, what has changed is that, well, because we're hooking similar as the other ones, I didn't mention, but we had like a loop that we were grabbing the agents. What I decided doing is that because every single agent is an AI agent, I specify the name based on the key. I'm retrieving the agents, okay, and then I bringing them together. Interesting enough, right? We're kind of building this. Let me bring again, opening this. So we're creating this handoff builder. Oh, that's not what I want. It's this one, this one. And we need to specify the root, and then we have those different agents in here. 1, 2, 3. And for each specialized agent, we know that needs to hand off back to the triage agent, right? So then it can conclude and provide like the finalize the request. Don't bother about this. I found this as more like as a bug within the UI. It's just because like internally we have like those names being displayed when you're saying like the agents, they get displayed. We can select on the UI. It wasn't doing that. Things were failing. So yeah, there are like some bugs with dev UI, but I got it to work, and I use a reflection for that. It's not really a hack, but I got things to be hooked up. Yeah, because when I try this, it works straight away with like the console. As soon as I try putting this one on dev UI, it didn't. Let's run the handoff in here. Let's put it, where's that? Here. Let's trigger that. So when it launches, I should have the console telling me the port number. So this one, 7089. Let's come to that. Okay, 7089. Don't need that. Cool. So we have like the billing agent, fraud agent, technical in the triage. Let's go straight to the workflows. So you can see here uh, what's happening. Let's minimize that. So we have like a start, then the triage agents that can assign this to a different agent. And we have, let's see if I can, yeah, probably showing this. Can you see? Uh, so the billing agents is going to somehow, well, somehow this one's, it is hooked because we know that the billing agent needs to report back to the triage. And visually, that's how it's represented. This one is going to report. The triage sends to the billing, and the billing needs to report back to the triage. So how it does is that it has this handoff end executor that sends back to this. Not sure if I, yeah, it's not going to decouple, but yeah, that's because of this one. So this one is sending back to that, which is pretty cool. So we see that there are executors happening in here. Let's start like this one. I had like as part of the query. So the way how I did is that all the console apps, they're gonna have, by the way, right, they're gonna have like this README. So you could take it and explore it. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna copy exactly what it says in here, like customer Sarah Johnson. I was charged twice this month by my subscription. I see two identical charges in my credit card. I need the duplicate charge refunded immediately. Okay, so that's a ticket has been raised. What I'm going to do, let's come to the dev UI and run it. So the triage agent is going to define what it is. Like identify is at the beginning. It's a billing situation. So it's just like assigned to the billing agents. It came back to the triage and finished. I was nothing to do with like other agents. It didn't do that at all. Let's see if I can do something different. So like issue, the the UI has a JavaScript error when I launch the app. This is clearly like a technical one. I just want to see if that's going to be the case, right? So I don't have like any persistence, but yeah, this is a technical error. Let's see what's going to happen. I just want to see that. So triage, yeah, identified is a technical support agent and came back. So we have like those smarts, right? So that's pretty cool. Like the use case, contact center, whatever you submit something that's very specific, the agents can help us with like the decisions, right? And when we're looking here, wow, there's been so just for you to see, right? So you can see like lots happening here, like uh ah, not this one, this one. So you can see endpoints, conversations, right? So all of that's coming from DevUI. DevUI does that for us. In here, you can see the first run, we have the billing. So there are like some tools in there. Refund request has been declined. Uh, so that's like was a random decision, not based on grounded facts. But there were things in here like, okay, diagnostics. No, you should detect it. Uh, critical incident. There's been like random decisions, right? So that's not grounded on anything, but it shows like those tools were executed for the different agents. Let me stop that. And let's go back to the next one. Oops. Yeah, I did that. The group chats. So things are becoming a little bit more complex because that's the nature of the pattern. But what happens in here is that imagine that we have multiple agents and they need to work together. The way how this pattern works is that you have this coordinator, which is the centralized manager that gives the agents like turns, right? So the agents they're gonna have a turn where they can say and bring like their inputs. What's gonna happen here is that well, it's a sample like with a blog on here where like there was someone building or creating a blog. Not sure if the definition for builder is right, but so, an agent is going to build like the art, create the article. There will be like a critic that could say, "Oh, look, this is not correct. It needs like ground information." Like with research, this one could define, okay, so research, you are next. And then like, yeah, then the critic could say, yeah, that's good. So that could be reviewed in the end. But what happens that this group of agents, they work together. If there are changes needed, as the next cycle, the builder would just say, oh yeah, look, I took like your feedback. I'm just updating that. So the coordinator here is just driving the turns. Right? Who is taking the turn? And yeah, each agent is a specialized agent, and there'll be ways for us to control terminations, right? Because this could end up into like infinite loop, and that's when like you burn tokens. You want a way to define, okay, that's pretty good. I'm happy with this number of turns. If things don't get solved by a certain number, you stop. If at any stage one particular agent says, okay, I'm saying that this is approved or finished, some sort of information that the coordinator could look and see, oh yeah, this agent is responsible for an approval, that could say that if things are approved, you just terminate, right? If you don't have like that sort of statement, let's say one agent takes the the turn to say, look, this is pretty good, finishing here, doesn't happen, you need to have mechanisms for stop this infinite loop. Let's run this one and see how it works. Okay. Uh, for the group chat, I think on this one, I'm going to. It's always cool to see them in like in execution. Let's bring that one. Let me close all of that. Close other tabs. This one actually. Full screen. So this one. So we have this coordinator. So it's going to be responsible for managing this insurance claim assessment. Okay. Then we have like a claims intake agent. It's going to be validating all the information. A policy agent that's going to be validating if things are well covered, right, under like the policy. Damage assessment and see like evaluating like vehicle damage or estimating repair and costs if that's like a vehicle. And frauds detection agents identifying like any sort of fraudulent claim submissions. Settlement agents that's going to calculate the final pay, right? So the payout. And we have like on the code here. So that's the one, the create group chat builder with. Interesting enough that at the same time we're connecting them together, we have this robin. So it means that it's going to happen like to a circle. And we have the max iteration here of 7. So if like the agents don't get to an agreement, it simply terminates, right? So the coordinator terminates like the execution. And we have all those participants, all of the agents in here. Cool. And we're gonna run that. Let's see, group chat. Have I done that? Let's run it. Let's see what's going to be the port number. 7044. Okay, 7044. Let me open the previous one. 7044. Cool. Let's see how it looks. Oh, very flat. Right? And that's exactly what it does. And well, you can see, but all of them is going to take turns and report back to the group, to the host, which is the coordinator in here. Uh, sorry, to the host, which the coordinator is one of them. So there's like a particular executor that manages that. That's like the visual representation of the implementation behind the scenes, right? So let's trigger that. Let's copy what was uh, as part of the group chat. So we have the console has the user prompt, right? Our request. The dev UI doesn't, right? Because you need to go to the UI and copy and paste in there. Let's take that one. So the customer, it's a new claim. The customer, John, is saying, I'd like to submit a claim for a car accident that happened yesterday. That's it. That's what's in there. Let's bring the UI and run it and see what happens. So you can see the coordinator is just kind of handing over the execution to the different agents. So the claim, then the policy agent. This one, so there are like seven cycles. Let's see if they get to agreement. If they don't, I can intervene because sometimes this one can take, yeah, a few minutes. But things are happening, right? So I don't know if you can see open-ended. There are decision being made here. Final assessment claim. There was a decision here. Let's see if I can. Please contact support with the payment. So there's like feedback for the user. That's otherwise this please provide the payment records or relevant documentation. This claim will remain denied until due to the absence of active policy. So there's been like some sort of random decisions in here, right? And the way how you can see the decision is that if you had like the console, but by looking at the tools in here, we could have like a validation here, like suspicious indicator, none, gross payout, 12K, evidence total loss, repair, partial coverage. So I think like one of the agents just kind of complaining about that, but all of this has been randomly defined, okay? But you could see like the behavior that things were just happening in a kind of in a cycle. It took like only one cycle, but it took a decision, and the decision, according to what we could see on the dev UI, is that nope, insufficient information. So this is not going to happen at all. So it has been like rejected. Not sure if it's going to see here. Uh, response, yeah, the number of tokens burned. But anyways, we can see that things happened in here, right? Let's go to the other one. I know that's again like to the final, but the magentic one, it's a special flow. And and that's an interesting pattern because the magentic pattern is something that came with AutoGen, which is say the precursor of the Microsoft Agent framework. So Microsoft Agent Framework was combined with a semantic kernel and AutoGen. Magentic comes from there. You don't need to worry about this one. This is part of the agent framework. But what it has like the brains, like as if like it was like really a manager or someone that can do like some sort of planning and really take like decisions out of those specialists that we have in here, right? And this manager, imagine like as a handoff, but the manager itself controls, defines a plan, an action to execute. And then we have those different agents, right? So the manager like is going to plan, dispatch, and replay at each step. The specialists they're going to report back to the manager. So this one it's interesting. So well, best for open-ended, multi-step solving problems, difficult problems. For this one, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run the console because the console shows exactly um, uh, the iterations that happen. Let's see, Magentic. Okay. And there's a difference in here is that, let's see, Magentic. So I'm creating like different agents. I create like a rep here. It does exactly the same, creating the chat clients. And with the chat clients, I get the AI agents. And then we have the prompts. The prompts are saying like around those turns, what happens. Uh, this can be, yeah, it's very like verbose, but the decisions in here are not like that easy. If you look, what's happening is that this, let's say, the commander, this manager is investigating a cybersecurity issue. And when we look in here, the different, let's see, where is that? Here. Like there's like an identity specialist, a network analyst, endpoint analyst, like API agents, threat intelligence agents, SOC analyst, and yeah, even like this different like specialized agents that can analyze the input. And what do those agents have is exactly like as I mentioned. I don't want to dive into that, but you can see like expert identity, expert in Azure AD, Enter ID, network specialist like responsible for firewall logs, VPN analysis, all of that stuff. And what I want to show is that there are turns, some decisions in here. This is the main query. That's like there's been like a security alert, right? Suspicion account activity. And it's just going to submit to the Magentic coordinator, and then those specialists are going to work together. When we look in here, the code, let me bring this one to full screen. Okay, this one. So this one is leveraging the Magentic workflow builder. This is the manager. Okay, and then we have the individual agents. Okay, so all of them have been added. And it says in here, require sign off, true. So I'm going to be prompted to approve the plan, right? So I'm doing that. I'm saying, look, after you plan, ask me for like an approval. So I am the human in the loop. They're like different rounds up to 13. There could be like sometimes agents just hang. So there could be like up to 3 stalls. We could like actively, the manager could come and force again, hey, wake up, or resets, depending on how the agents define like, or if they don't get to agreement, right? So you could like reset the flow. But I'm saying this as a sign off true with the console. When I look at the UI, what I did is that, oh, the UI itself, I don't have like a way for me to be prompted. So I just let it go, really. I said, look, require plan sign off, false. I'm not intervening with the dev UI, okay? But depending on how you do it on your use case, yeah, you may need to approve that, being like the human in the loop before taking any sort of decisions. I'm gonna just let it run on this here. Where is that? Magentic. Have I said that? Let's see. Set up uh, as the executor. So it's running. Okay. So the scenario suspicious activity. Each specialist is going to get like 2 turns. Cool. Fine. So let's see what's gonna happen. So the plan. That's the plan. Magentic plan review. So the coordinator create like a plan of action, saying that, okay, the identity is going to do this, network analyst is going to do that. Every single one is going to be responsible. It's saying here, press enter to approve or type feedback or any feedback for improvements. I'm going to type enter just to continue, really. Because from here, that's when the specialists are going to continue. And we can see those tools being triggered by this is the identity specialist. Like MFA is just randomly saying that, yeah, what we could be. Like MFA is not required. Oh, that's a flag, right? So weird things could happen. Data uploaded to phishing, proxy, and attacker. Second login has no VPN session. They're like, that was all randomly defined. So there are like some suspicious, like things that are happening here. They're not properly happening. EDR processes, browser extension intercept auth token, schedule tasks can complete, no traditional malware. I think they're just flagging things are all right. The threat analysis, threat actor, what was that? Identified, browser extension confirmed. And there are like the different decisions here, like mapping, threat actors, final assessment, disease incidents, attacks. Things are still happening. Okay, prepared for incident, commander. Yeah, that's still like not finished. It's still happening because the console hasn't finalized. Now it finished. Let's see what came up with. Final conversation transcript. So there's been like the incidents. Yeah, high like confidence level is that evidence from identity logs, endpoint activity was hijacked by a malicious browser. It's just making like the based on the specialists is just now saying like what happened, and it's bringing here like recommended immediate actions, revoke all active sessions, reset credentials, right, to preserve like forensic evidence, and creating really like comprehensive reporting on that. So like if you need any clarification, yeah, please let us know. Like something that you would use tooling for that, but we did that with Magentic. That's really powerful. Yeah, that's something that's much more than simply handoff, right? So, and kind of combining that sort of experience as a group chat. Imagine like group chat and handoff combined together. So, yeah, it's pretty powerful. Yeah, I know like we're being extending, but let's go like in here, finalize with the executor base class. Right. So all of that is handled and supported with executors. That happens, well, for us, it was just happen behind the scenes because we didn't specify any executor. But you have the power to create your own executors. And you get to that path when you're going to more advanced scenarios. Because what's happening is that you're defining the behavior. In the executor based class, it has like, for example, interface that identifies what it is. It kind of supports inputs and output types because as executors, they're going to act on something that is being provided, execute, and provide an output. That's it. Right? That's like what executor is responsible. And there's like a life cycle. So there are events that happen. There's like a major executor, like a method for that. Executor core async. And as you can see, oh, let me pull like this one. There's like an abstract class for that basically implements the I identified. Oops. And there are different, as part of the inheritance, there are different types of executors. Executors that only work with an input, so it doesn't require an output. So perhaps you're handling the input and saving somewhere, you're persisting that. You're, you're simply like doing something that's enough for you to take a decision. You don't need an output. There are executors that allow input and output. There's like another one specific, like reflecting executor. That one was really cool. They are decommissioning that. So this one has become obsolete, but what it allowed us to do is that through reflection, you would do things for us by analyzing particular libraries and do things for us. Stateful executor, there are like some methods, right, and uh, placeholders for us to handle um, stateful connections. Let's say if you want to execute something, you want to persist that, and then you want to hydrate that somewhere else. So you could use like this stateful executor. Right? Another one, chat forwarding executor. They're like, wow, when am I gonna use like that? To be honest, like I brought those ones because they are part of the base, the immediate implementation of the base class. Uh, Here, okay, I'm just sharing like a Microsoft article. So you can see here like the abstract executor, what's derived from there, okay? We have like those, like chat forwarding executor, input, reflection, and the stateful one. With the chat forwarding executor, I had no idea, to be honest, about this one initially. As soon as I brought up DevUI, I realized why. So what happens with the chat forwarding executor is that it has uh, implements a list of chat messages, and I'm going to show like on the code that Eh, because like when we are dealing with DevUI behind the scenes handle messages. Imagine like as a chat, right? You're talking to the agent, so it has a particular implementation with a list of chat messages. And what this executor does, it takes exactly as input those list of chat messages. Then it kind of wraps up the discussion for us. We could have done like with our executor with in and out, but there's been like a specific one. And this is for really chats. So it's just baked in for us to use. Let me show like on the code. That's the complex one that I left for last. Okay. Let me close that. Complex, this one. All right. When you're looking here, different executors. And if I open like the share, you're gonna see that we have the executors in here. Okay. Let me open them. Aggregator decision executor. Well, that wasn't part of the base, right? Immediate implementation. No, but that's another one. It derives from another one. Aggregation executor. There are lots. There are lots. I had it. I don't think I have it anymore. I think I closed before like the session happened. But what I had was this guy in here. Not sure if you guys know this tool. There was the oh, that's really tiny. But anyways, let me bring it here. IL Spy. So I'm looking at the libraries here and seeing. Look. Oh, come on. I took like the agents workflow in here, and I was looking at the executors. Really, the aggregating executor, where it comes from. Can I? It's kind of buggy. Anyways, let's see. It comes from executor, right? So in here. So they're like, but this one is different. Inputs in T aggregate, which is the output, but it's not part of the base. Yeah, it's weird, but it should. But you can see that I recommend you to have a look at that in the chat forwarding executor, right? When I was opening that, um, where was that? Chat forwarding, chat row. Anyways, I recommend you to explore that and see what happens. But you can see here, like chat messages. So it has like the backend implementation does that, which makes sense. Like, so I was investigating that because I used that one on code. Let me show that. This one is going to be displayed when I execute because um, yeah, just the way how like things were hooked. But you can see I have like the aggregating. The broadcast is a simple executor. Let me bring like the full screen. All right, the executor. Oops, executing here. Dispatch. This one. All right. Dispatch one could be a chat forwarding one, but you can see that I use this one as an input. Okay, I'm not saying that is this wrong. No, it's not wrong. But there is also other executors. They're more specialized. How do you know that, Marcel? Microsoft documentation is not up to date on that. You could simply dive onto those in here, for example, like clicking and going through and trying to see, oh yeah, that's, you're gonna see just the methods, right? Same as I did with IL Spy, but I'm looking at Microsoft documentation. Well, does it help? Not much, okay? But I reckon like there's a lot of work for Microsoft to do on that, to say like why, how can I use that, right? And explore really. But anyways, we have like those different executors in here. And the scenario I have is exactly the same with like the stadium that I had like initially. Let's go back in here. I'm creating like the different executors. And then I create like this chat forwarding executor. Marcel, did you create that? Like, how did you know about that? Because of issues, okay? As soon as I try running this on DevUI, wasn't support. Like there were like errors, like, okay, if you want to use the chats, you need to use the chat forwarding executor. Like there were errors. And then cool, okay, so I'm going to implement that. And you can see that the workflow in here, I am defining, okay, how things should behave. I'm adding, putting here, for example, chat forwarding executor. That's the first one that's going to wrap, let's say, all the conversation. But this one is adding edges. Imagine like this as a sequential way. It's going to dispatch things. The dispatcher has multiple agents are listening to that. And that's the fan out, fan in. As soon as those agents finish, it comes back to aggregator executor. The aggregator has a final output. But you can see as well that this one has started. It had like the turn token executor. So things are happening sequentially in parallel, right? And in the end, I have the aggregator in here. It's interesting that is the final chat output executor. Uh, yeah, it's another one like you're using like with tokens in this case, but this is the hack. I had an issue with WI. The reflecting executor in here, what I put it was like that. To use the reflecting executor for the final chat executor. I'm not gonna go and dive into that, but it has an input and an output. And it's basically just like running like the different states in here. But I'll leave you that with you. But it's just to make things work because of this complex scenario that I wanted to approach with executors. So let me run that, and then you're gonna see. Uh, Let me bring this one. So it launched. So this one is running 7077. 70, 77. Let me remove all of the garbage, although I think it's going to reload anyways. Here we go. All right, so let's look at that. So we have the dispatcher. So it's connected to those executors. So what identifies that with the dev UI, if I didn't have this guy in here, things wouldn't be displayed, right? This is for the visual representation, guys. It's not like something you need to implement. If you want to leverage dev UI and visualize what's going on with your own executors, like your own way of implementing that, your custom ones, you will need to have something like this, okay? Where you're kind of basically um, doing like a parallel execution to support the events that are happening. But let's just run that. And that's exactly like the stadium approach, like with the previous ones. Let's see, complex. What was the query? The workup readiness, right? So it's just the same. But I made that one myself as a custom one rather than a sequential one or a concurrent one. So let me run. So you're going to see that this one has been executed to support the different steps. Things are happening here, okay? Medical, and then I think there was, let's see, yeah, on this one there was some sort of like a bug with like the aggregator because the flow has finished. If I look in here, is that, well, response complete. I raised a bug with the UI is that I think what they are waiting is that for an event for the aggregator to be launched. I don't know if that's a tooling issue in here. It could be actually an issue with the aggregator decision executor, not flagging or triggering the final event. So visually it displays like that, but the flow has finished. Okay, but you can see that's me like controlling the flow and deep diving onto that. I could have like, or if you want to leverage, well, the agent framework for deterministic approach, right? You could have like your own executor in here, not even leveraging, or this one, is that leveraging an agent? Well, no, it's not. It's just grabbing like the message and create a response. So I'm wrapping any sort of codes. If I had any agent in here, I would be making the use of that. So let's see, is this one? No, it's not. So it's just deterministic code. Deterministic, this is not, okay? So like aggregate, broadcast, dispatch. The medical one has an agent in here, okay? Which is interesting because now I am controlling with an agent wrapped up within an executor, okay? So, and that's how things work. Like you're crafting yourself, the executors. You could put like additional logging in there, have full control. Like, to be honest, like for the production ones I create like with the clients I've been working for, I use this approach. Okay. So I use executors to do that. I hooked all of the flow myself. It's just because I want to have better control with logs and seeing like exactly what's happening. So you have like a full power in your hands in here with executors. Okay. Just finishing is that I know like we stretch a little bit more. It's one of those sessions that yeah, it's cool. I found like really interesting exploring the different options. But yeah, you can see here we have different patterns. You pick like what fits your workload. You can compose them as to make like your own workflows and knowing like those executors. I think like that's when you create like production ready workflows, have a look like exactly what executors can do for you. You could take like the base ones, implement things yourself, but there are others that perhaps are doing something similar for you, right? So you could explore them. Um, yeah. have like a look and get going with your projects. Okay, let's see. Oh, I've just seen like the message in here. Yeah, this slide was AI generated completely. Uh, yeah, I didn't put like the repository. So if you want to see that, let me put like in here, this one. I'm gonna put like on the chat and seeing what's available. All right, so just showing here. So that's a repository. Have a look at there. You can just download and get going. You just need to set up your variables, and this is it. As part of like the user group sessions, we have like more coming. The next one's coming for the Logic Apps SDK, happening now at the beginning of August. I invite you to come and check like the user group. And every month we have like sessions. And now with the workshops, I've been doing that. I intend to continue doing that. So it's going to be a mix of online sessions and in-person sessions. Yeah, I appreciate like your time staying up to this time, and um, uh, see you guys next time. Thanks so much, and have a great evening. Cheers.